G'day, Steve from Grays Marine here again. As you can see behind us, we got the GM68. Obviously this one here is for marine rescue.
My name's Kelvin Parkin. I'm the CNC manager and inspector for Marine Rescue New South Wales Fleet Department. Marine Rescue runs a really important piece in the community where we're out there to help boaters on the water. So the mum and dad, families who are out fishing, anybody really is off in the water, enclosed or offshore, if they need help, we're there to help them. It's run by volunteers, so having a vessel such as the GM6800 that we've got behind me is really important to be able to help our volunteers perform the duties to the community.
G'day, I'm Peter Holmes from CNC Marine. I am a manager and naval architect here. So go through all of our designs, got the team behind us to get through the body of the work, and I get involved in reviewing all of our structure, stability, all aspects of the compliance, and generally just making sure they're great boats that get out there.
Probably my favourite part about the whole boat is the forward facing cab. It just opens up the inside of the cab, just gives you so much more space. Like, end of the day, it's not any bigger than a normal cab, but you just get a lot more headroom in there. You feel like you're in a lot bigger area than what you actually are. I've built the boat from scratch, changed a few things up to make it more suitable. So obviously it comes in a big flat pack, and as you can see now, we've obviously had it all welded together. It's all been fitted out, everything. So there was a lot in the fit outside. So obviously on this boat, it's got all the bells and whistles on it.
The features around it are having a nice wide door, so if somebody's in the water, it's easy to get them out of the water. We've got FLIR cameras, so for night vision we can pick up heat signals, and there's also augmented reality where if we pick up a target, the vessel will actually hold that target in its view, and it makes it easier for the crew to maneuver to that person. So really a lot of important features. The access inside the side of the door, and also even ladder off the front of this boat makes it a lot easier to get people off the shore if they're stuck on the beach.
Obviously paint rails like around all the top, just so there's no reflection at night. It's got tow bars on it, so when they're towing a vessel, it keeps the rope up off the motors, acts as a bit of a motor guard as well. Plus it's got a bow ladder on it as well, which folds up. It's all bifolding, so it can drop down even when it's on the trailer, or when they're trying to pick someone up off the banks, you can drop the ladder down and you virtually just step straight onto it because it folds right down to ground level nearly, which will be good. So nice high rails, wide bow spread on it so you can climb up through it. Really safe sort of thing to walk around. So obviously they've got a lot in it, but end of the day, you gotta have a lot of stuff in these boats just for the safety reason. So like if someone is in trouble, like you want to be able to find the person. Bumpers right around the boat, so you can tie up the other vessels as well to help out.
So as we're going through new designs, like we have here for the 6800, is we go through a design loop, checking on how the boat's going to run, how it's going to sit in the water, and the stability aspects that go with that. So a big part of what I do is really taking it back to the bones of the boat and the design, I guess. So we'll take the hull shape to start with and look at the buttock lines, how the water lines are running, making sure that they're going to react with how we want them to with the water. So they're going to displace water, keep the water running up through to the chines, getting it, making sure the boat's going to be able to handle some chop if that's the scope like it was in this one, but also making sure the boat's going to be as dry as we can, and going to get up on the plane, be efficient. So there's all sorts of aspects of the design when we are looking at the hull lines, but it's always a bit of a balance. So we start with the design scope, trying to work out exactly what we want out of the boat, and then go from there and make sure that we can work out the powering, the shape, and really match it into the style of the hull. So I guess one example of something that happened on a boat like this is it's an offshore boat. We wanted to be able to handle it running in different sea conditions, crossing bars, have a smooth landing as it's going through a wave. But it's also got a big enclosed cabin at the front. So big deck space down aft, enclosed cabin forward. One of the challenges with that is that you have a lot of weight forward, and to counteract weight, you have to have buoyancy. But if you make something really full and buoyant at the bow, then you lose that. It's much harder to achieve a fine waterline entry, which is some of the things you're looking for offshore performance. So particularly on small boats like this, it's quite a balance in trying to look at all the different aspects of the design, the weights and the shape of the hull to try to make sure that it ends out exactly to what we're trying to get. So that was a big part of that refinement of hull lines that I guess we did through this, was trying to make sure that we could achieve as best we can all of those aspects of an offshore smooth riding hull, being able to support a cabin that's up forward.
So the vessel purpose of this one is we've designed this specifically to be on the lakes. So even though at Jindabyne, where this will end up in, the conditions there can turn really nasty really quickly. So the boat's got to be able to handle that heavy sea, spray, and also maintain a really nice, comfortable working environment for the crew. So when they're out in those cold winter days and trying to rescue people, they're not getting sprayed, they're not getting cold, they can actually sustain their search patterns for longer. So the boat gets used in a variety of ways. So we'll do the quick response. So it'll live on the edge of the lake, it'll get launched and be raced straight out there to help people. Then we'll also be involved in searches. So if there's somebody missing, whether it's a kayaker, a boater, we'll conduct searches alongside Marine Area Command and spend as much time in the water we'd need to until we find the survivor. So this boat will get used in all conditions. So, and unfortunately, a lot of the times when trouble happens, it's in really bad conditions. So we've designed the boat along with CNC and Grays around making sure that we can get out in those really bad conditions when people are in need the most and urgently. So we can respond quickly, we can get them out of the water and back to safety. A normal rescue may look like, in the best case scenario, we've had a call calling for help to our radio bases. The radio bases will then activate the rescue crew. They'll get themselves to the water as soon as they can, and ideally, if somebody's using the Marine Rescue app, they can log on. They've logged on, and we've got coordinates, and we can get there as quickly as possible and bring them back to shore safely. Obviously, it doesn't always go that smoothly, but that's an ideal rescue.
So, like as I said, been out, done a couple of water tests in it. Very happy, the stability side of things and ride quality. Seems to be very dry as well.
These initial sea trials on the boat, taking her offshore, ran really well. The messy seas out there were a bit of a challenge, but the boat handled them very well. We went offshore. It wasn't a standard set rolling sea. The sea was coming from multiple directions, so the performance was really pleasing from the initial tests. We've got some more tweaking to do to get it quite right, but she's going to be a great asset on the lake and in rivers and even offshore when you need to get it there. When we came back in, we had a nice following sea behind us, and it was a really good chance to test how the boat ran down with the swell. Smaller boats can tend to broach quite easily, but this vessel held its line really nicely, and that's to do with, you know, nice deep V in the hull, and also having that pushed the water out really well, so it actually sat and held its line nicely through the seas. So we've got about 100 vessels in the Marine Rescue fleet, and each one is located in different areas across the state. This vessel in particular is a bit unique because it's been built specifically for the alpine lakes. The challenging conditions up there mean we had to be very careful in what we produced. They have branches, low-hanging posts and all sorts of things that you wouldn't come across in a normal seaway. Oyster leases, all those sorts of things that can be really challenging for the crew. So we needed to be very careful in how we put the boat together. It needed to be have a nice thick hull so we could get onto the beaches. It needed to be able to be sturdy and also have a nice wide working platform for the deck, so on the deck for the crew, so if we've got patients on board, we can give them plenty of space and we can work on them quite comfortably. When you're dealing with those alpine climates, hypothermia gets to you. So being able to get somebody sheltered, wrapped up and warm as fast as possible, that's really important. And that was the other reason why we had to have an enclosed cabin, because when the crew are out there all day and they're working, in those cold climates, they need to be able to be sheltered and be able to keep warm and out of the elements too. So when we, part of the process when we put boats together is we really look at what the unit needs, the rescue unit needs, as far as their local climate and conditions. So although we really strive to get the best boat we can, we can't get a perfect boat that's going to go through every sort of condition. So there'll be boats that are perfectly built for offshore, there are boats that are built for calm water, and we need to find something in between that's going to really meet the requirements of those alpine conditions, but also be able to be diverse enough to be able to deal with heavy weather and swell and chop. Another part of our design criteria was being able to have safe access for the crew. It's a really a strong point for marine rescues is to have that safety factor, and with a lot of boats are designed without having the nice wide gunnel to walk around the vessel with. With this boat, as you can see behind me, we've got a rail that runs right down to the cockpit at the back, so you can actually walk up around the boat and still have that security behind a railing and not have to hang on to the boat as hard if you're through swell. You've actually got that backup stop to be able to keep you in place, and that creates a better working environment for the crew because they don't feel like they've got to hold on every second of the trip, and they can get to the front of the boat quite safely to help other people when they need to.
So I guess one of the things that would help this design over some other hull design styles that we could employ for it is that we did want it for sheltered waters, which is primarily where it's going to work. When you're working in an area like that, usually people want a nice stable platform. That's the basis of what we try to achieve in those situations, because people don't want to be rolling around. In a rescue type situation, you want to be able to go off to the side of the boat, it not heel over massively. You want to be able to feel confident that you can do the work you need to do inside that platform. A box is a very stable type arrangement, but then it's not going to run through the water well. And so the balance is about trying to maintain that shape and of getting the stability that you need, but also having it run through the water. I guess the style why we went this hull was that because we were trying to have it as a multi-purpose boat, that if there was a future a change in the operation, or it wanted to go to a different area and it did have offshore areas with bar crossings or bigger offshore operations, then it could handle that without having to be relegated just to sheltered waters. So the challenge with this hull shape was trying to get those features but also maintain the work that it's going to do for most of its life, which is in sheltered waters, as a nice smooth platform and still being, a nice stable platform, but still being smooth operations. The hull, I guess, that we developed for this was achieving a deeper dead rise hull, so that it was smooth running, but then having larger inverted chines so that they would stay in the water longer as the boat heels over, whether that's from passengers moving off to the side or wind pushing onto the side of the boat. Those chines then pick up more buoyancy, and the sooner the chine comes out of the water, the more the water plane area changes quickly, and that reduces your stability. So in this particular design, we focused on extending the size of the chines, making them stay in the water for longer, and that gave us that stable platform.
So this is number one of this GM68 as well. So it's the very first of that model. The vessel itself, if I owned it myself, I probably wouldn't change a thing in it. So we've had Kelvin down here dealing with him, going through the design process and whatnot, plus CNC like Liam and Marsh and Peter, going through all the survey side of things, trying to get it through the stability test on their computers. However they do that, I don't really know. But yeah, so we've had Rowan, our surveyor. There's been quite a lot of people been through and having a look at the boat as it's been getting built and as it was getting designed as well. There was a lot of backwards and forward emailing and a few visits and whatnot in the process.
Because we've got a lot of volunteers in marine rescue, I think there's about 1,000 rated crew member, about 3,800 volunteers in total, spread across the whole state. We have to make sure the interior fit out and the functionality of the multifunction displays, which are the chart plotters, the sonar, the infrared cameras, everything when you go from one vessel to another is functionally the same. So you look at one vessel, you could be working on one week, and then you might transfer to another area in the coastal town, the same setup internally. And it really helps with our training and consistency across our whole fleet. When we're ever building a new type of vessel into our fleet, it's really also almost an apprehensive point when we're putting them together, because we don't know what it's going to be like. It's hard to put together what you're looking at on a piece of paper to what we've got in the end result behind us when you're actually going through the process. For us, there's always apprehension on what we're going to get, because it's untried, untested. It's a new hull design. We've really put a lot of faith in the designers and the builders, as well as the state government and our board of directors and higher up, being able to allow us to do these sorts of projects, because without being able to push the envelope a little bit, we'll never be able to evolve our product. So before we get inside it, we'll really look at what we've got outside and what was come to fruition from all those hours of design and drawing and working with Grays and trying to make sure that my vision and the Marine Rescue's vision comes out off that piece of paper into a functional boat. All right, so on board Alpine Lakes 20, AL20, starting at the back and work our way forward, we've got twin 140 Suzuki outboard engines. This has given us a top speed of around about 35 knots, cruising at anywhere between quite comfortably 15 to 20 knots. The full deck is covered in sea deck, so it's actually made nice and comfortable underfoot. And so when you're working on the back deck, defibrillators, people, you've got space to work whatever you need to through here. Storage cupboards through the back here, and a nice wide opening door for the crew. So when we need to extract anybody from the water, you can actually lean right down and keep your knees up against this and pull somebody in. So nice wide opening deck for the crew to work through. Also perfect with the height for your when you come into berth, step on and off the boat easily. We've got inspection ports down the back there, so that goes straight through to the back of the boat, and also your manual bilge pump. Couple of nice strong welded cleats on the back to control your lines for whether you're docking, berthing, or you've got some side, you're rafting up another vessel side by side. A nice solid tow post, so when we're towing a boat that's in trouble, we need to get them out of any strife or danger, we can tie them off on that, and we use a 16mm tow line that comes with the boat to help the crew. In this little pouch here is quite a handy little socket. You've got your freshwater deck wash, which is a nice, easy if you need to wash the deck off. You need to, get somebody some water, anything there, that's all locked away nicely in there. Fueling port, so unleaded petrol on the baby. We've got about 430 litres on capacity, so that'll give us a really nice range, saves the crew having to stop for any fueling ports along the way. We have an external bracket for our EPIRB, so we can bring that out if our own boat gets in trouble, then we can signal for help. In the back seat here, little bench seat there, it's either seating for extra passengers when they come off and they need help, but also underneath this seating box is our battery switch. So we've got our 3 starting batteries, so port, starboard and parallel, as well as the house battery and a charging plug there. So when the boat's towed away in its shed, we can keep the batteries topped up, so that they're not going to run flat when we need them most. On the deck, we've got inspection ports for the top of the fuel tank and into the voids. If we look up to the roof here, you've got a nice big floodlight, so that'll cover the deck. So if you've got working area at night time or in low light conditions, you need to help people out on the back deck. We've also got our standard navigation lights, our radar, and FLIR camera. So the FLIR camera is our infrared camera, and that helps with our night vision and also our response lights. All the aerials are down at the moment, but multiple aerials for our radio and communications equipment. That's the back deck. You'll see that coming up the sides of from the deck, there's that nice wide walking area. So the sea deck runs all the way up. You've got a nice solid grab rail to walk to the front of the boat without having to worry about getting caught or feel like you're going to fall overboard. That's the outside. We can work our way inside now if you like. All right, so into the cabin. We've got 2 seats here. These are the Relax and Mako seats. They're really comfortable, the conformity. So when the crew are in there and you've got any heavy weather, they'll actually be really nice and snug inside the seat. Underneath the seat is a Salty Bliss shock absorber. So that really will take out that impact for the crew. So it really mitigate a lot of hurt if the crew are in heavy weather and they've got to get through and they've got to get there at speed. Those seat bases will take all that pressure for the crew, and it actually what happens is it reduces their fatigue. It means they can stay at sea for longer and they can search for anybody in distress for longer. Fire extinguisher down the back. And then underneath here we've got nice big storage boxes, so we can keep all the extra equipment that we might need to carry on board, first aid or defibrillators, all those other things that are important life-saving equipment. Behind the helm seat here is a little bench seat. I'll move those light checks out of the way. That little is just a little jump seat. So if we've picked up an extra passenger up on board, or we're doing additional training for the crew, we can have an extra person inside the cabin quite comfortably. Being a 6.8 metre boat, we wanted to maximise the deck area, but also have a comfortable cabin. So having this sort of layout is really nice and simple for the crew. They can operate, they can talk to each other quite comfortably without having to shout, and they can be at sea for longer. Moving up from the seats, the really nice innovation that Grays and CNC have put in is a 2-way window. So windows will open from the back or from the front, and they're nice and solid, so they're not going to slide on you when you're at sea, but you actually have to positively pull them. You've got ventilation fans to keep the air flowing through the cabin, and above you you've got nice grab rails, and actually at the door as well, so if you do need to move around the boat, you've got plenty of places to hold on to. Moving a little bit further forward, we have our multifunction displays. So these are what we call the MFDs. So we have a master screen here, and then you've got a 12-inch chart plotter display. This will tell you everything you need to know about the vessel's functionality. You can operate everything from the FLIR camera to the sonar, to the side scan, to your charts, to your vessel information. So you can really get a running fix on what's going on. We also have installed into this vessel called a yacht sense. So it's a remote information center that we can log into the vessel remotely. We can look at what the boat's doing. We can check on how the crew fatigue's going. We can watch what's happening with the cameras. Everything that you can see on the multifunction display, we can see from our desktop as well. Dual controllers for the Suzuki engines and your stop-start, as well as your Suzuki MFDs. The nice thing on the small boat is actually having a anchor. So we can run the anchor from here, up, down. It's hands-free, so the crew don't need to be in the way of any risk of damaging themselves. We can run the whole anchor from here. A standard horn. But up here also we've got some heavy-duty wipers, as well as the wiper switches. So everything there that we need to operate safely. If I move over this other side here, through the center console is our radio and comms stuff. So we've got a 27 meg radio, we've got our VHF radio, our DCN, our emergency radio. Then we've also got for Alpine Lakes especially, fire and rescue label radio there, as well as a UHF radio. So that's the main console all done. We've got courtesy lights. The other parts of this boat that really are important for us is having an AIS, so that's a global tracking system. So anywhere I can log into the vessel and I can see exactly where it is and how it's operating. And then we've got a man overboard system, so if somebody falls overboard, it will send a register back to the vessel and we can track them down and get them on board quickly. and then our searchlight controller. So we can maneuver the searchlight, which is on the top of the roof there, to where we need to be. Down the front is mostly storage. So when we need to keep our first aid kits, our larger life jackets, or any other stretchers or any other equipment, that can be stowed away right out of the way of the crew. So they've got a nice comfortable working space in here, and they don't have to get caught up down the front. That's inside. With our fleet, we build them to survey requirements, which is the AMSA, which is Australian Maritime Safety Authority, to make sure that we have the best safety standards, and pretty much AMSA is right up there as the best in the world of our delivery for our crew. So we need to make sure through these standards that we're delivering a great boat. And it also gives the designers and builders a criteria to work to. So I know that the product at the end of the day is going to meet those requirements, and we can, with confidence, hand it over to our unit and say, we've done everything we can to make the boat as safe as possible for you. We've put this one to 2C survey, which means it can actually go offshore quite safely. Even though it is operating in the Alpine lakes, it may get diverted or reassigned someday down in its life.
So survey is a pretty tough issue, especially in small boats. So as you get to a big boat, it's typically really clear what the commercial use is, and that's the crux of why something needs to go in survey. If it's connected as a commercial activity, then you need to go down a survey pathway in Australia. So as you're a big vessel, whether that's a ferry, it's really clear how that boat's going to operate, and the rules are quite clear that you need to meet. As you become a smaller vessel, the waters get a little bit more muddied because there's lots of different pathways, and often if someone asks us what survey do I need, or can I get my boat in survey, the first question we'll ask is, how do you operate it? What class do you need to go in? Because it's quite different pathways for small vessels as to what you need to do. In this case, the brief was that it was going to operate in sheltered waters, which is D, so 2D waters. But again, there was an opportunity that for a boat of this configuration, that if we can get it into a 2C pathway, which is restricted offshore, then it opens up opportunities in the future for repurposing of the vessel, moving to a different area. That has challenges. I would say some of the biggest things with survey is making sure something is structurally compliant. When we design boats, we are designing to these rules anyway. There is a fair group from an Australian commercial standard side. There is Lloyd's Special Service Craft, ISO 12215 is accepted for some, and Australian Standard 4132. We utilise all of these standards when we're designing our boats and make sure that we can meet them depending on the application that we need to have. So from a structural side, we already design to a high level, and it's not, if the changes are there, they're minor, not a big challenge. I would say the biggest challenge from survey is on small boats is stability. Particularly when we're talking survey, we're talking the full pathway survey. And in the case of the one that we have here, they're operating offshore with passengers, and therefore a full 2C initial survey is required. And in that case, full compliance to the National Standard of Commercial Vessels for stability is required. And realistically, those rules have been developed over a period of time, but they're based around larger vessels, and the smaller vessel allowances I don't think really adequately deal with the challenges that we have in small boats, which is why it is such a challenge to get small boats into survey. And the stability rules really are the biggest aspect of that. We're trying to address how windage affects a vessel when it's operating offshore, how the boat reacts under those heels, with those heeling moments, with people all off to the side, how the boat is going to deal in those situations. And the commercial standard, the NSCV, is pretty onerous in that respect. So the challenges we have is designing a configuration around those rules, in trying to minimise windage, look at our centre of gravity, keeping that down lower, and just generally looking at how that stability performs so that it will meet the required rules. Yeah, capability wise, I think the beauty of boats like this is that they are so flexible. They've got a huge amount of uses that you can have. For a start, they're trailerable, so remote access to areas is great, that you can go and take a boat to another area, and by going a full certificate of survey, you're operating under a national system now. So no longer, you can't take a boat from Queensland and operate in New South Wales if you have a full certificate of survey, provided you're operating in the same operational area, which in this case would be restricted offshore, then you're right to take it between places. So a trailer boat, twin engines, enclosed cabin is going to give you a lot of flexibility in where you can go and how you can operate. The restricted sea areas also change around the country. So in Queensland, that is not only 50 nautical miles baseline from the coast, but it is also the entire Great Barrier Reef Marine Park. So it's a pretty huge area that a boat like this could operate in. So then the actual application of who uses it, it really comes down to the configuration that you'd want to use, because this has got a full enclosed cabin, which does assist with part of the stability rules, but this is a great opportunity for people to be using it as a workboat. You can be away from the elements, and then the back deck is there that you can use for a payload. So as a 2C workboat, fantastic arrangement. You can also have this for a charter fishing arrangement where you could have the back deck available for people to go and fish from. So really, I think the sky's the limit as to the opportunities that you could do with a small boat like this. I think a big part of it is that your maintenance is low, you're dealing with outboard engines, it's trailerable, so you don't have mooring fees. By getting all of this in a package which is compliant to survey, really gives you plenty of options on how you use that boat. So really the difference between the commercial and recreational spec for a CNC marine boat is not much. We still design to rules which are used within Australian standards and with NSCV for commercial vessels. There are some intricacies within some commercial rules, like proportions of stiffeners that we may have to slightly adjust or upgrade depending on a situation. But generally, the whole concept of designing the CNC marine boats is they are a fully welded construction boat using the techniques and the standards that we use for commercial vessels. So when someone comes to us from that side, touching back to the stability aspect, that is one of the main things that we check first, is that we try to do checks on stability and see whether we feel that that is a pathway we can get through for the small vessel. And again, probably looking at what that survey requirement is. So there are lots of different pathways that are available for small vessels that may be operating as a commercial fisherman or as a workboat, which don't need to go a full survey path. And in that case, we have a lot more options, and we can design the full structure to survey and make sure that the stability is fit for purpose, which I guess achieves all the goals of those aspects. So really not a lot of difference, but it's about what path you need to get to your level of survey required. And if you chat with us, we can then work out exactly the differences that are there, if any.
During the build of the boat, there's a lot of inspections to be done. So obviously you had to have certifications, welding certifications to do it as well. So once we got the boat, the hull built, once it was all welded out, so our surveyor came up, done a big inspection on all the welding inside the hull. And he obviously ticked it off to that stage, and we went on to the next level. So we started putting foam. We had to get so much foam in them as well, until he comes back, does another inspection on that side of things, and then signs off on it before we can go any further. And then obviously seal everything up, flip the hull over, obviously weld the bottom out, and obviously the preparation before welding was a big thing. So a lot of photos and inspections on that, making sure everything's been V'd out properly. And then obviously go back through. All welding then was inspected again. and then obviously vessel gets flipped back over and then move on to the cab stage. And yeah, so he was here again the other day inspecting all the fuel tanks, all that sort of thing, pressure test tanks, more hull inspections, going through the foam, just double checking everything, all your fittings, the whole lot. There's nothing they don't miss, I can tell you that.
When we're looking at something new and design-wise, we really start looking at what the capability and sustainability of as an organisation is. There are quite a few boat builders in New South Wales, but there's not a lot of commercial boat builders in New South Wales. So we are lucky enough to get funding from the state, so I always try to look at spending our money within the state to begin with. If we don't find the right builder to build the project in state, then we'll look outside of New South Wales and around Australia. But working with Grays, who had the capability, who've got similar builds under their belt, gave us a little bit more confidence in being able to go ahead with the project because, like I said earlier, it is an unknown factor, and you sort of hope for the best, and we seem to have achieved very well out of this one. We've designed a lot of vessels through Marine Rescue. The process has been very good with CNC and Grays Marine. We came together with some concept ideas, some really specific stuff we needed to achieve with Alpine Lakes, and it was able to be achieved through that consultation process. So I spent time with the unit at Alpine Lakes discussing what they needed. I passed that on to the builders and the designers, and behind us here is the result. All in all, at the end of the day, we've got the product that we needed. We didn't want to rush the process, because if you're trying to rush a process and you're trying to get a result quicker, then you're not going to get the quality. And I think we've got the quality out of the boat. And also we're able to fiddle with some innovations, like the ladder at the front. We haven't had that sort of access to the front of a boat before without having to physically move a ladder onto a boat. We've got a new shock absorption for the seat, so ergonomics, we've looked at improvements on that. The actual cabin layout and different items, how we've set the vessel up, even though it's the same equipment, there's some stuff that sort of sits nicely that we've been able to improve from our current operations. And that's the same with what we do with all of our builds. We always look to improve, and we always look to get better each time we do it. After a few tweaks to the way the engines are set up, I think we'll have a really capable vessel. So the design process, the build quality, we'll definitely look at using Grays and CNC for future projects. My hope is to share the information and offer the vessel to other agencies to sea trial, and then make some choices of their own as well, because we like to be the leader, be able to push what there is out there, and if another agency wishes to jump on board and have one of these builds, I'm more than happy to support them. And also, if they need any direction in anything and around it, then we can help out. So that's the GM68. For us, it's called the AL20 for the Alpine Lakes 20. It's our class vessel that we're going to be sending and working down into the Alpine Lakes area. We've got 47 units all up and down the coast, from Point Danger to Eden. If you inspired to help on water, we are always looking for volunteers, and whether it's helping in the radio room to guide boats home, or general information for the boating community, to activate and really be at the forefront of that rescue initiation, or be part of our boat crew, we're always looking for volunteers. So if you're interested, look onto our website, marinerescuenewsouthwales.com.au, and we'll welcome you on board.